What does India's presidency of the G20 mean? Or why G20 is India's biggest growth opportunity? India's presidency of the G20 is challenging in the global context for a number of reasons. Despite these challenges, India is committed to using its presidency of the G20 to promote inclusive growth, sustainable development, and global cooperation. The government is working with other G20 countries to find solutions to the challenges facing the global economy and to build a more prosperous and equitable future for all. Here are some specific challenges that India faces in its G20 presidency. The war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is having a significant impact on the global economy, and it is likely to continue to do so for some time. The war has caused energy prices to rise, and it has disrupted supply chains. This is making it difficult for countries to grow their economies and to meet their climate goals. The COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic is another major challenge facing the global economy. The pandemic has caused widespread economic disruption, and it has exacerbated existing inequalities. India was one of the countries hardest hit by the pandemic, and it is still recovering from its economic impact. Next is climate change. Climate change is a long-term challenge that is already having a significant impact on the global economy. Climate change is causing more extreme weather events such as floods, droughts, and heat waves. These events are disrupting agriculture, causing water shortages, and displacing people. India is committed to addressing these challenges, and it is using its G20 presidency to build international cooperation on these issues. The government is working with other G20 countries to find solutions that will benefit all countries, including developing countries like India. Hello, dear viewers. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from StudyIQ IAS, and you are about to embark on a journey of learning like no other. So sit back, grab a pen and paper, and get ready to be inspired. So how can India's G20 presidency translate into tangible economic advantages for the country? This presents an incredible opportunity to exhibit India as an appealing investment and tourism destination. The ongoing urban infrastructure enhancement will not only streamline business operations but also enrich the quality of life in the near future. Well, the global tourism sector is estimated at $5 trillion, yet India currently holds a modest 1.5% share of this market. Similarly, the global MICE, that is meetings, incentives, conventions, and exhibitions, market valued at $650 billion, is another area where India's current presence is comparatively limited. The G20 presidency offers a significant opening to capture a larger portion of these markets. Well, a tangible instance is the creation of a remarkable meeting venue in Kumarakom, Kerala, constructed in anticipation of the second G20 Sherpas meeting. Such investments in MICE infrastructure stand as long-term assets. Furthermore, G20 meetings are amplifying local handicraft and handloom industries, boosting incomes for artisans, and showcasing their creations globally. Through these forums, India is advancing narratives related to its digital public infrastructure, climate actions, life, that is lifestyle for the environment campaign, global health, women-led development, and millets. Additionally, it highlights India's role as a bastion of democracy. So, this showcases India's exceptional soft power that is resonating on a global scale. Well, friends, against the backdrop of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, to what extent has the presidency succeeded in maintaining discussions centered around economic and developmental matters? The G20 is not a forum to discuss bilateral geopolitical issues. All members converge on developmental priorities that address concerns of a global nature. The G20 has effectively emphasized green development, climate finance, and life, along with promoting inclusive and resilient growth. It hastened advancements in Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and drove technological transformation and digital public infrastructure. Additionally, it has underscored the need for modernized multilateral institutions in the 21st century and the significance of women-led development. So how much progress has been made? Well, the goal of India's G20 presidency is to unify the group as a problem-solving entity for interlinked crises, promoting a resilient, sustainable, and inclusive world. This objective is based on an inclusive approach spanning working groups and employing a comprehensive whole-of-government strategy. Notable areas with enhanced consensus include green development, where principles like life were embraced by the development ministerial meetings. Discussions continue in disaster risk reduction, green hydrogen, ecosystem, alternate fuels, ambitious renewable energy goals, and mobilization of climate finance within relevant WGs in both finance and Sherpa tracks. While emphasizing SDGs, India's presidency actively addresses the regression in progress and remains steadfast in driving global commitment towards achieving them. In alignment with this priority, the Development Ministerial has adopted the 2023 Action Plan on accelerating progress on SDGs, which will pave the way for our interconnected goals. Our considerations encompass the principle of CBDR-RC, common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities, aiming to elevate and harmonize climate finance for both adaptation and mitigation efforts. Well, in the realm of technological transformation, the G20's accomplishments with initiatives like the Global Digital Public Infrastructure Repository, that is GDPIR, and the Global Initiative on Digital Health have achieved broad consensus. In the context of gender equality, our presidency has prioritized empowering women and girls, a stance that has received a strong support from all G20 members. Successfully elevated the discourse around digital and economic empowerment for women and girls within G20 deliberations. Notably, many G20 Sherpas have commended India's proposed text on gender equality, acknowledging it as the most robust they have encountered in over the years. So, to what extent has progress been made on other matters, such as global cryptocurrency regulations, a significant focus for India? The regulation of stable crypto assets is a result of the finance track, with the ministry taking the lead in negotiations on this matter. India's emphasis on debt management challenges affecting vulnerable and developing economies, intensified by the pandemic, is notable. Well, considering similar crises in nations like Sri Lanka, is there an anticipation within the G20 to establish a consensus for implementing relief measures in response? Within the finance track outcomes, the G20 is actively crafting a document concerning the global debt landscape. Well, India has already showcased its leadership by extending a line of credit to Sri Lanka, which played a pivotal role in securing an IMF bailout and initiating their debt restructuring efforts. The G20's common framework has similarly contributed to the Zambia's debt restructuring journey. Our steadfast commitment lies in enhancing the inclusivity and effectiveness of this framework within the G20. The climate crisis demands immediate global collaboration, as exemplified by the recent floods in northern India. Well, friends, to what degree have the discussions within the G20 centered on this matter, and what significant outcomes are anticipated? Under India's G20 presidency, a dedicated working group was established to tackle disaster risk, known as the Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group. This includes a focus on early warning systems and disaster response mechanisms in collaboration with the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, aiming to yield fruitful results in this domain. Well, friends, upon assuming the G20 presidency from Indonesia, what advancements have been achieved in the past year regarding matters that were left unresolved during the Bali presidency? Throughout the past year, India has been actively engaged in ensuring the G20's dedication to the 1.5 degree centigrade trajectory while meeting climate finance objectives. After the new Global Financing Pact summit held in Paris this year, and with extensive deliberations spanning the Sherpa and finance tracks, efforts are centered on securing commitments in the domains of development and climate finance. Given the substantial investment needs in developing nations for climate and SDG goals, the reliance on public funding alone is insufficient. India is also working on mobilizing private capital. Well, friends, currently the G20's focus revolves around the recommendations put forth by the Independent Expert Group, that is the IEG, concerning the restructuring of multilateral development banks, the MDBs. India's primary goal is to reform these institutions and enhance climate and development financing for developing nations. Continuing India's endeavors to integrate MSMEs and individuals into the digital economy, the focus has been on ensuring inclusivity. This is being pursued through discussions surrounding a proposed unified framework for building, implementing, and managing digital public infrastructure. Well, India is also actively seeking consensus on initiatives like GDPIR, which aims to host diverse DPIs on open source platforms. Well, the Trade and Investment Working Group is concurrently engaged in negotiations concerning various facets of digitalization, including trade documents and platforms for MSMEs and startups. So what other issues hold significance? A significant accomplishment has been advocating for the permanent membership of the African Union within the G20. India is leading efforts to ensure effective representation of Global South interest during its presidency. The potential inclusion of the African Union in the G20 has garnered widespread support from numerous member countries. Interestingly, highlighting millet as a contemporary dietary superfood is also a notable achievement of India's G20 presidency. Well, what is the current status of this initiative? India's vision to introduce millets to the global culinary scene has garnered an exceptional response. The presidency aligns with the International Year of Millets, further emphasizing the value of these supergrains. The millet counters at various G20 meetings within the country have been warmly received by attendees, with Indian chefs creating delightful dishes using millets from both local and international cuisines. Moreover, India has successfully garnered international consensus on the International Millets and Other Ancient Grains Research Initiative through the Agriculture Working Group. Well, friends, the G20 presidency has provided India with an opportunity to highlight its rich cultural heritage and tourist attractions, as demonstrated during gatherings like the one in Hampi. Additionally, this presidency has enabled Tier 2 cities to host meetings of such global significance. India has successfully hosted more than 140 meetings, welcoming over 18,000 delegates representing more than 115 different nationalities to G20 gatherings and associated events. Every state and union territory has been touched by the G20 spirit, allowing visiting delegates to immerse themselves in India's rich cultural and natural diversity across the nation. Well, many destinations that might not have been part of foreign visitors' itineraries have now gained global recognition due to India's G20 presidency. We hope you found this episode as captivating as we did in creating it for you. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. See you soon.